All right, welcome back. This is part B with Jacopo.
Yeah, good
Yes.
pronunciation.
I wrote it down. That's why I did
Nice.
so well. He is from Italy. We have had some good conversations. So if you skip to part B, go back and watch part A. You owe it to yourself to see the first
Do it.
half of this video. All right. So while I was making my bourbon, which by the way, like I said, off the air, this is Woodford Reserve. So if Woodford Reserve, you want to go send me a few free bottles of Woodford, I won't complain. But I'm not sponsored by Woodford Reserve. I'm just drinking their bourbon. Um, I was thinking of two questions that I could ask. I really ran through just so many questions I could ask you, and then it's kind of like, well, you don't have that much time to ask so many questions. So I had to be like, well, all right, let's just I gotta pick. I gotta pick the top ones, the burning ones. Um, so one of those burning questions, it's funny because now I've forgotten the second one. I remember one of them. I'll remember the other one while you're answering this one, I think. But the one I was gonna ask was, up to this point, how much have you worked with tools, like physical tools? Then this could be digital too. So, but this could be hand tools, or it could be sports tools, or it could be
Mhm.
anything, any manipulative physical object.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I
so
got it.
what's your relationship with that world?
Okay. Well, as my study course, it's looking to is mostly computer. So
Hmm.
I working toward to become a marketing specialist. So I'm really starting to work. I really work a lot with my computer. I built it with my best friend, my computer, a gaming computer,
Hmm. Hmm.
and generally I enjoy manipulating things a lot. I played several types of different musical instruments.
Hmm.
My most played one is electric bass, electric guitar,
Hmm.
but I also played piano,
Hmm.
drums, the one where you seen before in part A. Go watch it. Yeah, where my clothes were. It
What?
was an
Go
electronic
watch what?
drum.
Wait, go watch what? You want us to share? What is it called?
Yeah, the one where my clothes were put on was my electronic drum
Oh,
set.
right. Okay.
I have a guitar right here, a
Hmm.
classical guitar right here. So generally, music I always love to play it. In the recent time, I don't have so much time for it, but I definitely want to start again. Played a lot of different instruments. For more physical work, I would say probably very basic things like building a personal computer, changing lamp light, and so
Hmm.
on. I think I don't have a good manual. I'm very good with manual labor, I would say.
Hmm.
But in my sports too, I use weapons because
Hmm.
I started martial arts this year, and
Hmm.
I use the wooden sword and
Hmm.
wooden mace. I would say wooden
Hmm.
baton. I don't know how to call it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And also the tantos. I do aikido, the Japanese martial arts. Tantos
Hmm.
are the little knife, of course,
Hmm.
not cutting.
Hmm.
I have some knife around here. I am a butterfly knife. I generally like things that make me work with my hands. So I would
Hmm.
say I'm pretty good with tools. My
Hmm.
father always said I pretty excel at sports that concerns tools like fishing,
Hmm.
tennis,
Hmm.
golf, so on.
Hmm.
He always said that I needed to be a golfist, probably a
Hmm.
professional golfer.
Nice. Okay, that's good. That's good. So, and now here's another question I wanted to ask. What is your
Yeah,
thoughts on altered states of consciousness?
altered state of consciousness. You mean like using drugs and so on?
Psychedelics, meditation, sensory deprivation, many different ways to to get to that.
Okay.
But what do
Okay.
you think about all that?
Okay. From the side of drugs and alcohol, I would say definitely it's not a good sensory alteration, consciousness alteration. I think it could be quite bad and quite dangerous from the other people. So I
Mhm.
not really a fan of it. I probably smoked like 4 joints in my life. I really don't like drugs, neither
Mhm.
marijuana. Not
Mhm.
judging who use it
Nope.
usually, but personally, I'm not a fan of it, of doing drugs. For the more, I would say, spiritual ones like meditation, mindfulness, and so on, I definitely am a fan of it.
Mhm.
As I said before, I started to go near Buddhism, starting to
Mhm.
retake it a
Right.
bit. And I really like the part of recitation where you just go and do the Namyo Renge-kyo, the Renge-kyo, and it really puts me in a sort of flow meditational state
Mhm.
of,
Mhm.
your happy place, I would say. So
Mhm.
definitely am it's one of my favorite things. So yeah, I would say I'm pretty I support them. I would say generally.
Okay. And what would you say are the top video game genres that you tend to play?
Top, well, I like every type of video games. Probably
Mhm.
the ones I play most are action games. So
Mhm. Mhm.
adrenaline, adventure, action like Tomb Raider, Uncharted, and so
Mhm.
on.
Mhm. Mhm.
Role-playing games,
Mhm.
especially I also love turn-based combat, but I prefer
Mhm.
action combat and those type
Mhm.
of games. I love role-playing, so
Mhm.
also that's why I love playing tabletop games with my friends.
Mhm. Mhm.
Racing games, I love them a lot. Really, really like them.
Mhm.
And beat 'em up,
Mhm.
Tekken, Mortal Kombat. There was a time when I really was starting to play Super Smash Bros. Professional, I will say.
Yeah, that's cool.
Uh,
Ultimate.
yeah, yeah. I made some tournaments too.
Oh,
Terrible
very
one.
nice.
Too
I
bad.
am a I have been playing Ultimate for years, for a few years, however long it's
Nice.
since it came out. I play the Belmonts, but I
I love Belmonts too.
only have like 2.5 million Smash GSP. I'm not like great, but I enjoy
I'm a
it.
6 million, around 6 million GSP.
6 million,
So
yeah. So you're up to the Elite Smash area territory.
yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite character probably this is a good, an interesting thing because
Mhm.
I always wanted to research how types, mythological
Play
types,
Smash Brothers.
was
Yeah.
not specifically Smash, but video games in general.
I do have
Or
some theories on that actually, and
yeah, I
maybe
would
we can
love to
talk
hear
about
it.
that. Yeah, we should
Yeah,
talk
probably
about.
after the video because the viewers won't be
No, they
spoiled.
might be interested in that. So maybe we'll do. We'll continue. I'll start another video. We'll talk about it, and maybe I'll just post that as a separate video, which will be
Yeah, I love
what
to. Let me know
relationship
when you're
does
doing it.
type have to do with
And
video
yeah,
game?
in Smash, for example, one of my
Mhm.
favorite characters are Little Mac and Sonic. I like going up
Mhm.
in your face with characters, and so
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah. So
Okay.
these will say are my favorite genres. I like everything that compels competitive multiplayer.
Mhm.
I'm a fan for it. Every type of games. So yeah,
Okay. I think I'm gonna tell you what I think your type is, and
yeah,
then we'll make another video after this real quick. When we have if we have a little bit of time, we'll talk about video games and types because I have some theories on that, and I think it would be make
yeah.
for an
Would love to.
interesting video. Um, so I'm just gonna tell you what I'm gonna use some words and I'm gonna bounce it back at you. And it sounds like you're knowledgeable about typology, so you're probably gonna understand exactly what I think your type is. But I mean, really strong capability, very strong ability, natural ability, and you exercise it in extroverted sensing. Like you have you're very capable at extroverted sensing,
Hmm.
not just physically. but mentally, like you're doing it physically because you play physical sports that do this, but you're also doing games that require a lot of this.
Mhm.
So the beat 'em ups and racing and things that require fast reflexes, that requires a lot of presence, like what is going on right now, moving back and forth. Things change right away. I have to react. That's extroverted sensing. If you're very good at that, you're going to just enjoy that because you're going to be like that. I'm in my zone. Like that's what I win at, right? So if you're very good at it, you're going to win at it, and if you win at it, you're going to enjoy it. So it makes
Yeah,
sense, right?
I would
So
say,
yeah,
yeah,
so
definitely.
it's easy for you to be competitive because you're like, well, I'm good at it, you know. So
Brilliant.
if you're good at it, yeah. So to me, that sounds like extroverted sensing, Dom.
Mhm.
You also have a very strong definitiveness with your ideas that comes with introverted intuition, which makes me think you prefer introverted intuition. Um, but you like to use your introverted intuition in the real world, in the real
Mhm.
kind of way. So that tells me that if I had to say, well, are you using NI more, SE more, I think it would be more SE, and then using your NI to support the SE. Um, and then when it comes to you know the introverted feeling or extroverted feeling axis or extroverted feeling or introverted thinking axis, I mean your strong independent logic kind of sense to me
Mm.
sounds like a lot like introverted thinking, in the sense that um, you have your ideas, you have your thoughts on what you know uh, what is true or false. You get into debates, you get into arguments, you get into discussions, and you're not content to just sort of trust status quo. Not to say that all extrovert thinkers do that, because there's certainly plenty of extrovert thinking. There's a few extrovert thinking types that are very independent thinkers too, like INTJs, for example. But the way
I
you
would say,
describe,
if I can, I would
yeah,
say one thing is,
hmm
I don't know if it relates with it, but I think
hmm
I'm not really good with theoretical studies and so on. I always have a hard time studying theoretical concepts. I don't know if it's related to I prefer of or intuition rather sensing. That's I don't know. It's
well,
something
no,
else.
but theoretical concepts aren't, there's a misnomer about that intuitives are the only one, the ones who can think about theoretical concepts, and
Oh yeah,
that
I hate
sensors
concepts.
don't. That's not true. What it is sensors think about theoretical concepts differently, that's all. um,
Okay, okay, good to
so
know.
an
Thanks.
ISTP thinking about things theoretically is just going to work through the logic differently, that's all. So so don't get hung up on the word. What I'm thinking is if there is any theoretical thought at all, it's
Hmm.
introverted thinking probably.
Okay,
That's what I'm trying to
okay,
say.
okay.
So if it's
Yeah,
like Einstein was an INTP, so he
yeah,
preferred
yeah, yeah,
high amounts of
yeah.
theoretical thinking, and he
The
just came
combo
up with
with
these.
extroverted intuition and introverted thinking, yeah, was
Right,
great.
introverted intuition is also very, but introverted intuition is a sensing function, so it's different. Introverted thinking is kind of like, what do you do with the knowledge that you have? How do you
Hmm.
move? How do you move it around, and how do you organize it? And introverted thinkers are very focused on their own way of organizing knowledge
Hmm.
versus the normally expected way or accepted way
Okay,
of
okay.
organizing knowledge, and that can make introverted thinkers are the kind of people who would reinvent the wheel. You know what I'm saying? Like an
Yeah,
extroverted
perfect.
thinker would accept the way that it has been designed and probably try to figure out how it works and figure out how it.
Optimization versus efficiency.
What's that?
Yes. Optimization versus efficiency, I would say something
Maybe,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. I've heard that as used as as a comparison. Um, but I think introverted thinkers are they're more willing to sit and theorize and pontificate about it and to try to
Yeah.
contemplate, like, why is it the way that it is, right? And I'm saying sensors too, so this is not just an intuition
Yeah,
versus
yeah.
sensing thing. I think it's just
Yeah, yeah.
introverted versus extroverted thinking. So to me, you strike me more as an introverted thinker in the sense that you pontificate about your theories and your ideas, and then
Mhm.
you argue about them. You get into
Yeah.
arguments about them because
Definitely.
not because there's an end result in the sense that something practical has to happen, but more
Mhm.
because the idea, the thought has to become fully defended or fleshed out, or you know what I mean. You have to the logic has to be consistent. So, and also, I think the fact that you don't get necessarily in confrontations the way the confrontations you're getting into have to do with debates you mentioned, kind of, and that makes me think extroverted feeling. And
Mhm.
to me, when I talk to you, you give off to me a certain rapport that is very smooth and very easy to get along with, in the sense
Mhm.
that you and I have some kind of understanding of how we
Oh
are.
yeah. I noticed
um,
that too.
Right, and that so I can kind of tell when I'm talking to another extroverted feeler. I feel like we could probably not offend each other. We would probably be able to argue about anything and would probably be okay with that, and we wouldn't take it personally, I think.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
so that to me is a strong extroverted thinking, or sorry, extroverted feeling thing, where as long as you and I both feel like we're not upset or whatever, we can talk about any really upsetting conversation topic, because we've accepted this temperature or something of the room.
Yeah, yeah.
So so that was what I was pretty early on. I think I was pretty sure that of those two dichotomies that you preferred those two axes, and then it was really, to me, it was kind of down to, I was thinking ISTP versus ESTP, but I was leaning more strongly to ESTP, and I couldn't get away from the fact that you said that you're more reactive. And I think ISTPs are more proactive than reactive, even though they are perceiving types.
Mhm.
Um, I think ISTPs are more forward thinking than in the now thinking, kind of, and not as good, to me, the ones I've known anyways, not as good as many different things like you are. You're very good at as many different physical or action oriented things.
Mhm.
Introverted thinker DOMs are more in their heads than that, so they're not spending as much time in the physical world as um, extroverted sensing DOMs are. So you can guess. You obviously can tell what type I think you are, which is ESTP. But the
Mhm.
funny thing is, I think when I was having my drink, I think the conflict I was having was because, to me, you don't seem like your stereotypical ESTP. But you know what? Joe Rogan is an ESTP, and there are a lot of very, I guess you could call them, kind of charismatic thinkers or something like that,
Mhm.
who are very good at the physicality of the world, but also have a very well balanced kind of way of being about them. They're not the jock type that you would think of, maybe necessarily, for being ESTP. I think they're more the well-rounded type who have maybe done a little bit more soul searching, or have figured out a little bit more who they are, and have developed a little bit more earlier. So I mean, every type you can find immature INFJs and mature INFJs, and the immature INFJs. It's like, holy cow, watch out for them. And the mature ones are like gurus. So it's really cool. There's a spectrum, and I think the same thing is true for ESTPs. Like ESTPs, the really immature ones are like these horrible jock people, and the mature ones are like almost like these gurus as well, but just kind of a different kind of guru. So that's what I've noticed anyway. So what do you think about my observation, and how does that fit with what you kind of came into this call with, what you were thinking?
Okay. I think it's pretty spot on, I will say, because if sometimes I have a hard time categorizing myself in something. But I always thought when people told me, because a friend of mine were telling me that I was leaning to a more
Hmm.
intuitives preference and so on. I never was very convinced. When I started to inform myself about MBTI,
Hmm.
aside from the fact that I still think it's a bit, how to say it, a bit
Right.
restrictive on the person. I mean, I think
Reductive,
it
even,
kind of
right?
reductive.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it kind of represents like the 10, 15% of the human psyche, probably, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe, maybe.
I always thought that I was leaning much more toward the SP preference, the SP temperament, in the
Mm-hmm.
Kiersey temperament, the artisan or
Hmm.
the adventurers. So I
Hmm.
think I was leaning much more toward them. I always have a hard time understanding if I was leaning more toward FE-TI axis
Hmm.
or TI-FE axis.
Hmm.
So you simply, it was a really interesting conversation. Aside from the really interesting exchanges we had. It was kind of confirmation for me because people online and so on always told me, "Oh, you're probably or ESFP or
Hmm.
ESTP."
Hmm.
And sometimes I thought that was also ISTP, truth be told.
Hmm. Hmm.
ISFP never
Yeah, I don't know
resonated
if
with
you're an
me
I. I
much.
wouldn't say ISFP. I
Yeah,
wouldn't.
I will say if I have to give a probability, I would say 70% ESTP,
Hmm.
30% ISTP.
Hmm.
Also because I know a friend of mine that's is ISTP. We have really similar way of thinking,
Hmm.
but
Hmm. Yeah.
how can I say? He's more, as you said, more straightforward in the ideas. I mean, he
Yeah.
wants to do that, he do that.
Hmm.
That's something for me that it's impossible. I will always
Hmm.
try to throw myself in things. I'm not impulsive. I'm more a kind of reflective guy. I
Hmm.
take some time when, especially important things are taken in consideration. But I really have to have a confirmation if this thing could be like me or not be like me. I
Hmm.
need to throw myself in that situations.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
the example, a perfect example with my experience is with musical instruments. I tried so many different musical instruments. I tried so many different sports. I tried so many different bachelors and degrees and so on because I really need to leave the situation. So yeah,
Hmm.
probably I think ESTP is more makes much more sense in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, good. That's good. So let's see. Let's see how we're doing on time. Okay, we're doing good on time actually. So, let's 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 do two more questions.
Yeah,
One, I'm going to ask you a question, and then the second one you can ask me a question. So
yeah.
so if you are an ESTP, which it seems like you may, so I guess coming into this call you thought maybe you are more likely an ESTP than anything else. Is that what you were? Is that what you would say, like coming into the call?
Yeah, ESTP or ESFP were
Okay.
my two preferred
So
hypotheses.
okay, so I would agree with you on that, and so for any potentially ESTPs who are watching this call,
Mhm.
because to me you seem like a healthy ESTP, or at least I've only
I
known you
hope
for an
so.
hour, but I mean just my observation, anyways. But what can you say is something that ESTPs should know to to be healthier people?
To be healthier people, well, I think I'm not here to, I don't want to pontificate or anything. But generally, I think one of the best advice I think I will give to generally every extroverted sensing user, but especially ESTP and ESFP, it's just don't feel chained down when the situation calls for it. Just act, throw yourself in situations, and with also care for other people. I mean, it's not the impulsive destructive behavior. It's more like throwing situation and try to solve them, analyze them, and I would say try things, experience situation, experience life in general, and in the free time, think about it. What did it mean to you? What did it was your situation? How did you feel in that particular situation? I know maybe for teens it's a kind of bit hard to understand their internal feeling, their interior feelings. But I would say generally the best thing to be a healthy ESTP is just to draw in situation and analyze them from a rational point of view and understand what does it meant in the building of your personality and your character. Probably this is the best advice I could think of.
Nice, nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you for sharing that. That's great. So, all right, I always give everyone a chance to ask me a question too at the end. So, feel free to. What do you want to know? Anything.
Well, we'll definitely stay all night to talk about your video game hypothesis and so
Yeah,
on
no,
for
we'll talk about
later.
that after this. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
So,
perfect.
what?
The thing
Yeah, whatever else.
I always thought about it. How does into introverted intuition works as a dominant function? It's something I really had a hard time grasping. How does it represent life? What does it mean for you? How your mind generally works is something I always thought about it, because when I'm not good at typing people, I will say, but when I found into introverted intuitives one like ENFJ, ENTJs, and so on, I always had that question: how could they do that? For example, Young, I read Jung's
Yeah.
book. How how did you do that? Simply.
Well, that's a good question, by the way. Because uh, it's hard to see externally that someone prefers introverted intuition.
Yeah, probably it's one
uh,
of the hardest functions to find, in my opinion. Also with introverted feeling, probably those two are the most hard for me to
yeah,
feel.
yeah, yeah. I could see why. I could see why. Um, well, one thing that I can say is that people who prefer introverted intuition think very holistically.
Hmm.
Think about everything, kind of as a unit. Um, and I'm sure, and you talk in generalities as well, just like I
Mm-hmm.
do, which is a sign of holistic thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so to be an introverted intuitive dom is to have the personality type that is very consistently thinking about everything all at once, uh, or to be perceiving everything all at once.
Hmm.
Maybe. Um, so because INTJs and INFJs seem to do this slightly differently or deal with this kind of thing differently. Um, I've noticed. So INTJs deal with this. Well, one thing that happens, I'll tell you this if you want to know just some strange, weird factoid about
Hmm.
NI DOMs, is it seems like perhaps have a strong sense of depersonalization or
Oh.
derealization. It's not necessarily to the degree always to the degree of functional dysfunction,
Hmm.
but to the point of disintegration with all of reality. So a sense of otherness from all of reality and a sense of otherness from all people. so
Okay.
so when you
Nice.
find other people that you connect really well with, it's a startling thing to happen. Um, like my mom said when I was a kid, when I was in the nursery at the church, I would be off playing by myself. So I did a lot of drawing and writing as a kid. I was an adult before my time,
Hmm.
and I always related with adults and never with kids.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, something
and
I did too, to be honest.
yeah, so, um, but a strong sense of creativity, strong sense of abstract thinking, strong disconnection from reality and fantasy, ability to embrace fantasy, um, ability to reprogram your own thinking and to recontextualize everything and to simulate everything, um, and to see a reality that's not there many times over, and to think
Hmm.
12 levels deep
Ooh,
into what you're doing,
that's
and
amazing, but terrifying at the same time. I don't know.
yeah, it's weird. It's a very abstract and weird thing. It's the third eye. Third eye is just wide open, um, and it means seeing things from so many different angles that makes it complicated to explain to other people what you're seeing.
Hmm.
And then
Hmm.
you have to synthesize, and the result of that synthesis is metaphor. So, NI DOMs are very metaphorical in their way of explaining things because they know that other people won't understand what they're thinking about unless they can somehow distill it into something, into some imagery or some iconic explanation, a seed, as I call it, an idea seed of some kind that's packed with genetic material that can go into your mind and can sprout and become some tree of information.
Ooh, an amazing image. Really interesting. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Because reading things about BTI or socionics or Jung too, basically introvert intuition was the hardest thing to describe. I would say the I always heard talking about it like metaphor, symbolism. You see something and you definitely figure it out on the longest train in
Hmm.
time. Sometimes even maybe a fatalistic approach, I would say, in some
Sure.
situations.
Sure. But you know what that
But
you know what I think it really is? I think it's Play-Doh. It's gonna sound really weird, but I think here's a metaphor, right? Play-Doh. I think it's just Play-Doh. Sorry, hold on one
yeah.
second. There's a call coming in that I have to end. There we go. Um, I think that movie film versus Play-Doh. So I think that introverted sensing takes movie film of everything. It documents and catalogs everything, and we remember.
Hmm.
And everybody does that, by the way. Not even INFJs do that, but your introverted intuition, which everybody does as well, including ESTPs, is probably more like Play-Doh in the sense that this event happened to me and I stick my finger in the Play-Doh there. And then this other event happened to me and I stick my finger in the Play-Doh there. And what ends up happening is you have this ball of things that's been touched by different other things, and it gives you some sense of reality because you can look at that, you can turn it over and be like, oh yeah. And at the end of the day, your intuition is just looking at that ball and seeing where other things in your life have touched certain things, and drawing conclusions. Well, something like this happened to me, so this situation that I'm in must, um,
Nice.
you know what I
Perfect
mean?
image. Yeah,
Yeah, so
perfect.
so so it's
Really
more about
interesting.
patterns, It's more about just
Yeah.
patterns of things that have happened, or and they've impacted your mind somehow, and then you access those patterns instead of looking at the literal memories of what had happened and saying, well, that thing that happened to me when I was 10, instead of doing that, you say, there's this pattern of behavior that I see, and then that causes some new idea to come to reality, and then something happens, and you say, well, it's this. You draw some kind of conclusion.
Hmm. Nice.
So
Thank you very
yeah,
much. It was really explanative. Thank you.
Play-Doh. It's all about Play-Doh. Well, it's been a very entertaining conversation, Jacopo. I appreciate it, and
Thank you. It was the
and,
same for me.
Good, good. And to our friends watching, I hope you'll like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I certainly enjoyed the video. And feel free to leave comments in the comments. Let us know what you thought. Share what's something that the people at home could share on this video. What would be interesting? What's their ESTP story? Tell us your ESTP stories. Tell us what it tell us if you know an ESTP or if you're an ESTP or if you have a friend or family member who's an ESTP. Tell us your ESTP story. I hope it's not too bad. Tell us your happy ESTP story. Tell us your happiest ESTP story. How does that sound?
My happiest ESTP story is something that go directly in my. I think I was around 16, 17 years old.
Uh-huh.
There is a city near here in Florence. That's called Fiesole. That's basically on the height of the hill.
Mhm.
With the car, you go there with like 20, 30 minutes. It's really close to the city, but it's pretty high.
Mhm.
One time I went with my INTP friend on the
Mhm.
bike
Mhm.
night. It was like 2 or 3 a.m.
Mhm.
And we did all the hill up to the top. To be honest, like half of it we just go out from the bike because it was destructive for
Mhm.
to make it. When we reached it, we made like I think 1 hour from the bottom to the top, and 10 minutes without using any brakes on the bike till to the city, and we like traversed like half of the city without using any brakes, and it was pretty
Nice.
amazing.
Nice. That sounds like a great
That's my
night.
ESTP story.
I like that. I like that. That sounds like a great night.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I'm jealous. Well, okay, great. So that's a great story. And so whoever else
Thanks.
wants to leave another story, a comment with your ESTP story, your happiest ESTP story, feel free to leave a comment. So, all right, thanks for joining, everybody, and have a good night wherever you are. Drink your bourbon and treat each other well. Take care.
Yeah.